The Voice. Now, it's amazing how people who say they're nice can be such bullies. It's like they think, being nice is actually an excuse to be very cruel. And the past 24 hours has shown that. Shown us the hypocrisy and the viciousness of some of the key people pushing this kind of Aboriginal-only parliament. And it's exposed how the ABC, taxpayer-funded, supposed to be impartial, has turned itself into a propaganda channel for the Yes case. You are being bullied, and you've got to ask yourself, if these people are doing this now, imagine what they'll do to us if they win. Let me explain. Yesterday, the federal Liberal MPs voted to say no to Labor's racist plan for a voice in the Constitution, to have a group of unelected and essentially unsackable activists with the power to tell federal politicians and federal public servants and even the Reserve Bank and any government agency what they should do. And potentially, depending on the courts, stop them acting until they've at least listened, say some experts. So the Voice is really that radical. The reaction of Voice supporters today to what the Liberals decided yesterday was so abusive. In fact, it was vicious. People pushing the Voice, they claim to be tolerant. They're there to unite us. But how key figures acted today prove they're promoting hatred and division, and the ABC gives them a free rein to smear people. Take Noel Pearson. Now, Noel Pearson is part of our Aboriginal aristocracy. No Aboriginal leader has been consulted more. Few have had so much government money given to them and their organisation. At one stage, over 8 years, $150 million to help just 3,000 people at Cape York. That's $50,000 for every man, woman and child. Pearson's results, though, have been terrible. And now he's switched to, well, let's design and push something symbolic instead. This voice in the Constitution. Which means that if Pearson himself ever got appointed to the Voice, every federal public servant and politician would have to listen to him. What a power trip. So, when the Liberals yesterday said no to the Voice, Pearson took it very personally. He went again to the ABC to attack them. And the ABC's Radio National Breakfast, hosted by Patricia Karvelis, a real activist, gave him 16 uninterrupted minutes to go to town with abuse and smears and misrepresentations. It was pure hate.
The Dutton Liberal Party's Judas betrayal of our country. He doesn't mind chucking Indigenous Australians and the future of the country under the bus just so he can preserve his miserable political hide. Peter's the undertaker here.
Now, the abuse is one thing, and Pearson also did a spray in the same show a few months ago against Jacinta Nampijinpa Price. Pearson's hypocrisy is another thing, because that abuse came from a hater who claims he's actually a lover.
When they go low, we're going to go high. You know, we're going to meet hate with love. Seriously, listen to yourself, Noel. Now, this hypocrisy is very typical of prominent supporters of The Voice. It's like they're actually fueled with hate and not love. You just need to listen to one of the architects, Marsha Langton, for instance. The Voice seems to be their excuse to smash people and not unite them at all. Or you take Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews, again today. He also claims to be on the side of tolerance, pushing The Voice is going to make us kinder, he thinks, claims. But this is how he today spoke of the second biggest party in our politics, the Liberals, and their supporters.
They are a mean, nasty outfit with hearts about as big as their dwindling primary vote.
Now you see this again and again. People on the Yes campaign claiming it's the terrible No campaigners who are nasty, but no one is nastier than them. Another example, the third from today, Liberal MP Bridget Archer. Now she's actually campaigning for The Voice, and in fact votes so often with Labor that she may as well join it. Now, as I predicted last night, Archer was on that same ABC show today with Patricia Karvelas, bagging the Liberals, her own party, and calling them the nasty ones.
We've already seen from the kind of formal no campaign, if you like, some fairly ugly language already.
Nasty language? I have to say, Bridget, the only nasty language I've heard today was from the Yes campaign. Why didn't you call that out? And in fact, the Prime Minister even repeated one of Pearson's insults of Opposition Leader Peter Dutton today, getting personal.
As Noel Pearson said this morning, Peter Dutton is acting like the undertaker preparing the grave to bury Uluru.
Now, as for that ABC program that had Noel Pearson on, Bridget Archer, and the ABC generally, by the way, the ABC bosses actually warned their staff that because they are taxpayer funded, they have to be impartial on The Voice. That's part of the ABC Charter. They've even had extra training not to be biased. But you look at that ABC Radio National breakfast show today. It spent 16 minutes interviewing Pearson, attacking the Liberals, promoting The Voice. It's then spent 9 minutes interviewing Bridget Archer, attacking the Liberals, promoting The Voice, and finally gave just 6 lousy minutes to Liberals frontbencher Paul Fletcher, who was opposing The Voice. And while the two people who were for The Voice could speak uninterrupted, say what they like, be abusive, totally unchallenged, Paul Fletcher wasn't even allowed to finish his first answer before the badgering started.
And we support a legislated establishment of regional and local voices.
Let me get in there.
We've said we will support the bill to authorise the referendum to proceed.
Just final question, Paul Fletcher, before I do let you go.
So the ABC is a national disgrace. It's essentially stolen taxpayers' money to just fund the campaigns of the left. It's a disgrace. Because the ABC was just as hostile to the Liberals on its other platforms as well. I mean, here is ABC Melbourne Radio this morning berating yet another Liberal MP and treating The Voice like a feel-good marketing issue, right? Instead of what it really is, a radical race-based change to the way Australians will govern themselves.
Haven't you just alienated two of the groups, younger voters and women, that you specifically say you can't afford to struggle with if you want to win an election?
Now, let's be clear here. The Voice is supposed to be about love, but is pushed by people who hate. The Voice is supposed to unite us, but is being pushed by people to divide us. And if that's what they do now, what are they going to do when they get real power, if this Voice gets voted in? And I urge the Liberals to have a rethink about how they're selling their no campaign. Because no matter how nice and meek and polite you try to be, however much you want to compromise, you'll get zero credit. You're already being damned as racists and bigots and haters by people themselves, the racists and the bigots and the haters. And I suggest perhaps you're too timid. I'm all for civility. Stay civil. Stay civil. But your message is too complicated. And in particular, it lacks moral heart. You should be clear. This Voice is not just dangerous, giving these unelected activists filled with hate, potentially the power to cripple government. You're right about that. But it is also racist. If this Voice gets up, for the first time in our lives, Australians will be divided in our constitution by race. And on the basis of their race, get different political rights. And this is shocking. It's immoral. It means that for centuries to come, there will be two classes of Australians in our constitutions, divided by race. And how can that unite us? Particularly when, as you just saw today, the people pushing this Voice are looking to use race politics to divide and insult people instead.